Alrighty then, so update 31.1 Echoes of War just dropped, and with it came a bunch of goodies like a bunch of new augments, a Hildren collection, as well as a ton of changes and fixes and all that good stuff, so let's check it out. Starting off with the augments, the first one is for Frost and it's called Biting Frost. This passively gives you 200% crit chance and crit multiplier against frozen enemies. This is actually a very interesting augment, probably my favorite augment of the bunch actually, because if you combo this with the right avalanche build, it's gonna be awesome. The tricky thing here is going to be balancing all your stats here, because you essentially need all of them if you're going to use this augment. You're going to need range so the enemies stay frozen for an extended period of time. You're going to need efficiency because avalanche is expensive. You're also going to want some range because, well, you want to hit as many enemies as possible, and then you also want strength to not only do more damage with avalanche but to also bump up the armor reduction that the freeze from avalanche provides. So yeah, a very cool augment, and you can get it from either Cephalon Suda or the Steel Meridian. Next on the menu we have Thermal Transfer for Gauss. This augments Thermal Sunder and it makes it so that the area left behind by Thermal Sunder will also give you a buff that increases your damage. Now by default the area gives you 75% increased either cold or heat damage depending on which zone you create, and it lasts for 30 seconds, but these are affected by power strength and power duration respectively. The functionality is actually kind of similar to Wisp's mode, so once you put the area down, as long as you stay in it, you have the buff infinitely, but once you get out, the duration starts ticking down. Also, if you create both the heat and the cold zone and you run through both of them, you're gonna get both buffs at the same time, so you're gonna get bonus heat and bonus cold, though they unfortunately combine into blast. And finally, if any of your allies run through those zones, they will get the buff as well. So if you fancy this one, you can pick it up from either the Arbiters of Hexes or the Parent Sequence. Next up, we have the Gourmand augment for Grendel, and this augments Feast to cost health instead of energy, however it does bump the cost up quite a bit. Normally this costs 25 energy to activate and gobble something up, and then it drains 1.5 energy for every enemy that you have in your stomach. This however bumps it up to 200 health to activate, and then it drains 30 seconds per enemy in your stomach. Though luckily it is affected by efficiency, so you can bump the cost down a little bit, and there is not much to show here, it just changes the way it works. It's kind of like the spoil, so if you want to pick this one up, go to the Red Veil or the Steel Meridian. And the final augment on the menu is actually for a Warframe that I'm currently leveling up, finally, Ureli, and it's called Surging Blades. This is an augment for Aqua Blades that allows you to hit the ability button again once you have the Aqua Blades active, which will throw an Aqua Blade forward, dealing damage that increases per enemy hit. Now this unfortunately costs energy unless you're riding Merulina. Merulina? I have no idea how to pronounce that, but if you're riding your fish skate thing that you get with Ureli, it's actually free. Now since I'm only just leveling Ureli, I haven't a bloody clue whether this is useful or not, but if you want to pick it up, head over to Cephalon Suda or the new Loka. And that is it for the augment, so now let's talk about some of the general changes. So they changed the way Lich weapons work, or rather how they spawn. This is actually an awesome change, and it will save you a lot of time, especially if you're hunting for a very specific Lich or a sister weapon. So basically, whenever you ignore a weapon on either a Larvling or whatever the sister progenitor is, that weapon can no longer spawn. So if, let's just say, you run into a Larvling that displays the Kuva Heck and you ignore it, you can't get the Kuva Heck anymore. The only way to get it to spawn again is by actually ignoring all the weapons, at which point it will reset once there are no weapons left. So a very good change indeed, though make sure you double check the weapon the Larvling has, because if you accidentally ignore the weapon that you actually want, you will have to kill a bunch of them to reset it and then hunt for it again. The second big change with this update is the fact that the new war is now replayable, which wasn't possible before, so if you want to replay the new war, you can do so. Another big change, which wasn't actually listed as a big change, but I consider it to be a big change, has to do with the Kuva Liches and Sisters of Parvos yet again, and it's the fact that they changed what they can do in Railjack. Now previously these were kind of useless because they were basically just defenders that couldn't go on turrets, they couldn't repair, they just couldn't do anything, they would just roam around the ship, and yes, they were strong but ultimately pretty useless. And that's not entirely true anymore, because they've given them the ability to revive you and other crewmates, which is pretty cool. Now in addition to all of this, there were also a bunch of UI changes which you can check out yourself, there is no reason for me to go through them one by one. Then they also changed the way conservation works in Orb Valleys a little bit, so some of the more common species can now be found roaming in Orb Valley, so you don't necessarily need to track them down. And finally, there's also been a ton of performance optimization, ton of fixes, ton of changes, and all that good stuff, and if you want to check all of that out in detail, I will leave a link to the full patch notes in the video description. I mostly just wanted to cover some of the major stuff and go through the augments. So that's pretty much it for the video. I thank you very much for watching as always, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.